Tony Chapman on News Talk 1010.
Joe on a little bit of a rant talking about how political correctness just drives me mad. But I got to tell you something. As the host, I get to pick my guest, and this guest has no political correctness. She is passionate. She is unfiltered. If you own a pet, I want you to take down this number, 416-872-1010, or text us at 71010. She has conviction. She backs it with knowledge. I got to tell you something. I met her. She was my neighbor. And when I met this girl, I ultimately ended up married. She came with a Schnauzer who was, at the time, I guess 12 years old, you know, getting along in life. And this thing was kind of starting to limp with arthritis and sluggish, and her coat, and she's growing these like bumps on her body. But, you know, I fell in love with it. I never owned a pet. And I started talking to Sylvie, and she said, well, what are you feeding her? And her eyebrows went up. And how are you exercising? Her eyebrows went up. And next, I started listening to her. And I started following her advice. And I wish you could see the before and after. This is a dog that people stop me on the beach all the time going, is that a puppy? Her coat is beautiful. Her eyes are clear. She's got a bounce to her step. There's no arthritis. We've taken things like meat out of her diet. So Sylvie Sauvage is here with us. She runs a company called Oscar and Molly. She quit an amazing job. She left one of the most coveted marketers. She decided this was her cause in life. 416-872-1010. Text us at 71010. You started off by one of your favorite expression is you are what you eat, right? And I bought it because for me, and you said, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your pet. Tell me what that means.
Well, it means I love what you just said about how I helped you help the love of your life, or your pet partner, I should say. But, this is true. I think it's basic common sense that you are what you eat. So for those of us who have children, when our children are misbehaving or maybe are overexerted or are not doing well, they're not feeling well, what's the first thing we go to? We go to nutrition. It's logic. But when it comes to our pets, we feel it completely natural to be feeding them out of a bag that sits on a shelf for 2 years.
And why is that? Like, it's just because that's how we're taught? I mean, I remember growing up going, I almost wanted to eat dog food growing up. You used to see the commercial, the gravy train, where this gravy train would come along and the dog would be chasing it, and then they pour water into this dish and it would all get all soupy and gravy. And I went, that looks pretty good, so that must be good for the dog. Is it just because we're conditioned that processed food's good for our animals?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that happened in history with financials and, convenience, time lapse. Also, when you're talking about those commercials, they were fun. And they also had much better, the concept of food was much more viable. When you look at gravy and meat, it's really not gravy and meat. It's highly processed meat that doesn't really have live, living, or value. So the commercials, I don't think were real.
Yeah. I'm a marketer. Do you tell me we do commercials that aren't real? 416-872-1010. Text us at 71010. We're with Sylvie Sauvage. She has got a company called Oscar and Molly. And your passion in life, your crusade, is to get people to start thinking about what they feed their dogs versus about simply what's convenient. So give me a sense of, one person just wrote and said, what food is good for a dog that is 13 and starting to get joint issues?
Well, I'm going to say what's good for a dog is food. So, is a processed diet food. And if we can start talking about nutrition, we start talking about their digestion. And we start talking about the type of nutrition and digestion. And the combination of the two would be meat, bones, organs, some vegetation. And I mean, there's a lot of different information. You can even look up Oscar and Molly online.com, and we could tell you a little bit more about what's the proper nutrition.
So, but they specifically said joint issues. Is there a certain thing you need to do?
Yeah, you can just do the same thing you would do for yourself. You would do a glucosamine combination of supplementation, but it's much more than that. And I think this is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. If you have proper nutrition plus supplements and a proper exercise regime that isn't extreme or too little. I mean, it's the same as for people. Think of yourself and apply it to your dog.
So I want to take our first call here from Leah. And keep the calls coming in, 416-872-1010, 71010. And this is from Leah in Brampton. Leah, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you for taking my call. We have a Shar-Pei. She's approximately 2 years old. In the past 4 weeks or so, she started breaking out, scratching, swollen body, especially around her paws and her knee joint. She's very pink in her underbelly. And we're thinking it is the food. How do we, yes, we are using a processed product that was recommended by the breeder at the time, but can dogs become allergic to their food, and how do we switch out for food?
Well, what I would ask you before we talk about the food, is there any changes that have happened in the last couple of months that you would say might have created this change in her?
Like in the household?
Anything, a vaccine, a change of food, a change of carpet cleaner, anything like that.
The only thing I can think of is possibly carpet cleaner. We're using, we have a cat that is getting older and is having a few accidents here and there. So we have started using a pet deodorizer.
Okay, so that, you know, it's, yes, your pet can become allergic to food, but it's not so much the food, it's the lack of nutrition that causes their bodies to have a domino effect of different reactions. So when your dog is, or any of your pets are having physical reactions, it's their way of communicating with you. Something is not right. So think about, if it's coming from the paws and going up, I would probably consider it being your carpet cleaner.
Okay.
But a proper nutrition would help your pet's immunity to actually fight those things as well.
Leah, stay with us. We're going to take the calls. They're just flooding in, so I want to just keep this going. I want Andy in Oakville just picked up a dog from a breeder. It's being fed raw. What are you saying? Your dog's lethargic?
Yeah, and it's strange. He doesn't bark. He doesn't take hand food, but he's been doing quite well at the breeder on raw, and I've been trying him on raw beef, processed raw beef, chicken, and what they call a breeder's blend, which includes tripe and stomach and bones and so on and so forth. He loves to go on his walk, but when he's in the house, he just mopes about. And I've crated a couple of times because there's been a couple of accidents when I leave. And after a 40-minute, drive over to the bank, I come back and he's completely destroyed his crate. Now he's 100 pounds, 5.5 years old. He was a show dog, so he's got a bit of attitude. But just in the house, he just seems really quiet, too quiet. People.
Okay, Andy, let's just in the senses, so you've sort of picked up the gist of it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I would say, how long have you had, what's his name?
His name is Toby.
How long have you had Toby?
Toby's been here 2 weeks.
Okay, so you don't really know the difference from his behavior before to now?
Other than what the breeder has told me, I used to own his grandmother till she passed in May, and she was just a very vibrant, up to 15 and a half for an 80-pound female. So,
but did you, because any dog that is lethargic is a problem, and I would recommend you see a holistic vet about that, because I'm not, I can't qualify what's going on.
Stuff do diagnostic on the phone.
Well, he's good on the leash. I mean,
yeah,
in the house.
Yeah, but dogs tend to be very, they're very good at hiding issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for the suggestion.
Okay.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks very much. Don't forget, you can join this conversation, 416-872-1010. Sylvie Sauvage, Oscar, and Molly. The phones are coming in, and we're going to go to Anne in Stouffville. Anne, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. You have a question for Sylvie?
Yes, I do. Our dog is 13. I actually had texted in the question about the joint issues, and I was just calling in. And she's just started to get joint issues, never on glucosamine. Would you suggest a raw diet? We do get organic meat. We get the hearts and the liver and stuff. Would that be something that would be helpful?
It would be helpful if your dog has no illnesses and is just okay. So I would absolutely recommend a raw diet, some omegas, and some glucosamine.
Okay,
Absolutely,
great.
And a chiropractic adjustment would probably help a lot too.
I'm going to come back to that after. I just want to say we're going to stay with Sylvie because she's always popular. 416-872-1010. That's 416-872-1010, or text us at 71010. But right now it's 7:45. Time for News Talk 1010, Time Saver Traffic.
We are issue free, but still very heavy on all